Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and right beside me, I've got Hoops. How you doing, man? It's actually been a minute since we've recorded an episode together.
First off, it's great to be back. Last week I wasn't really feeling the greatest per se. Was recovering from I had a little bit of a fever in the beginning, and then afterwards I was just having like a sore throat for a while, and so wasn't fun, but I would say like I'm about like 95% good at this point. Like just throat maybe just at times a little bit I guess at times still a little bit annoying, but for the most part it's much better now. So yeah, definitely good to be back. Aside from all that, honestly everything has been going good for the most part, mostly just regular life routine. Been working gym and not really doing too much I guess out of the norm stuff in general. So honestly just mostly getting through in life lately. How you been, man?
I've been good, just been keeping myself busy. Whether it was like, I guess, a couple weeks ago, I talked about it in the last episode. I was watching the Gold Cup, the soccer tournament that was going on. Guatemala got deeper than expected, which is cool because they like never win soccer games, and obviously they ended up being knocked out by USA. But it was a cool game to watch. That who did they face? I already forgot who. Oh, they faced Canada. It went to penalties, and it was stressful. But like, I was celebrating. My dad was celebrating. It was fun because like Guatemala never wins any games. So that's cool. As we were talking earlier, I've been building Legos. I made that bookshelf behind me so I can display more Legos and stuff. There's a little bit of this podcast lore up there. It has the cork board where it has the Boston Celtics and OKC Thunder pins, since they are the two teams that won championships during this podcast run. And also, if you see that bottle right there, that's the ranch dressing bottle that I drank the last episode that we did together a couple weeks ago, where since the Pacers ended up losing the finals, I had to drink that during our episode ranking every not every playoff performer, but ranking our like top 20 playoff performers, something like that. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that you're back. I'm glad that you're feeling, at least for the most part, better. It's is it safe to say that you're like rarely sick? Because I'm not like used to seeing you get sick and stuff.
I would say like I guess it depends on the season. Like usually I wouldn't really get sick in the summer, I don't think. But I guess occasionally that type of stuff ends up happening. So I guess um I would say somewhat out of the norm for me to be at least sick to that extent, because usually like if I am, it would just be like a small cold or like maybe like a small sore throat, but that one was just like a little bit more of like an unexpected slightly worse than would have liked type. So I would say like your assumption for the most part relatively accurate.
All right, makes sense. I feel like I'm the same way. I'm rarely sick, especially during the summers, unless I go to Guatemala. Then sometimes, because of the change of weather and environment, and sometimes food. I got food sickness once. It was not fun, um, or food poison. I think that's the word. That was not fun. But other than that, I'm like rarely sick too. And you missed out on the biggest winners and losers episode that I did last week. You don't have to go over every single team, but what was like your biggest winner during this free agency and your biggest loser? You could just give one each, one team each.
I w- I would say that like definitely the Rockets would be one of the top winners due to obviously getting KD um upgrade there. Didn't really give up a lot to get him. I mean, I've seen like obviously some people thinking that they gave up quote unquote too much to get him. I think that's complete BS. I mean, they literally gave up a guy that wasn't really showing up in the playoffs, Jalen Green. And then like Dylan Brooks obviously was a good contributor, but he was not like no superstar player to be like of loss like that. So that was clearly a great move for the Rockets. They were already the 2 seed in the West this year. They might be even better now. So we'll see what happens there. Losers, obviously there were some teams that just didn't do very good in the off season, but I feel like it's hard for me not to put the Bucks like towards the top of the list. Obviously, signing Miles Turner was not a bad move. I didn't understand when I saw that they waived Dame, I was just completely shocked and caught off guard like anyone else because like I get that he was having health problems and had to be sidelined due to those effects, but I feel like that's no excuse to be just like flat out waiving someone who I think is still one of the top point guards in the league, even if he is dealing with like those I guess both I was gonna say more I guess long-term health problems versus like more so basketball injuries, even though technically it is a basketball injury still, but I think like the fact that they ended up just flat out waiving Dame was definitely not a good move. And that obviously unshockingly Giannis wasn't happy about it. So I feel like that in itself, not only do they waive one of the top point guards in the league, but they make their superstar not unhappy. That increases fuel to the fire of potentially him getting traded is definitely not a good look. So I would say top winner probably would have to be Rockets, and then at least one of the top losers would be Bucks.
Yeah, I agree. I had the Rockets as one of my winners. I think that was the first team I talked about, and then I did talk about the Bucks. Even though I understood the moves made, like why are you gonna pay an injured guy to not play, especially with his age and stuff. I understood why they did that, but like it's the the Bucks' goal is to make moves to make Giannis happy, and they didn't do that. And this team is not going to compete for a championship, which is something else that would make the Bucks or Giannis happy. And since that's not going to happen, I'm sure Giannis is going to leave soon. I don't think he wants to, but I think he's going to leave soon. So I went over a lot on my thoughts on the winners and losers this past free agency in the last episode. So if you guys want to check that out, check that out. But today we got a very fun episode. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and we're talking about NBA GOATs, more specifically team GOATs. And in this episode, we're gonna go over the Western Conference and go over every single team and their team go. So there's teams that are a bit easier that you like it just comes to your mind. Like if you think about that team, you think about that player because that player is their GOAT. But there's some that are actually like really tricky that I had to debate with myself. Maybe we will have some different answers. Maybe you'll convince me with an answer that I was struggling with. We'll see. We'll see. What was your did you have like any thought process on this? Was this easy for you, or did you actually like struggle a bit coming up with these team goats?
I feel like definitely some teams were more challenging than others. Um, I think a lot of it there were different factors for like me picking the specific players of the franchise goals. Like for example, one of them, obviously stats do matter a lot for sure for this type of argument. But I think another thing is like when there's like multiple players of high stature, then you gotta get a little bit more tick tacky with who over which guy. And I think that in that sense, different factors come in. Like for example, longevity or time spent with that franchise. Um, did this player win championship or did this player not win championship? Or what all did this person accomplish with this franchise? Stuff like that. I feel like it's definitely many different factors. Um, I would say some teams struggled more than others, but for the most part, I feel like most of them were like not super challenging for me. Like usually it would be like between like two, possibly three players I would decide. Ultimately, I feel like I was able to pick the number one after laying some of those different factors.
Okay, makes sense. I feel like I was very similar as well. So we'll go over each team. Uh, Looking at the doc, did you put it by divisions?
I put it by divisions, yeah.
Okay, so which division are we doing first?
So this would be the Northwest Division, being Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City Thunder, Minnesota Timberwolves, Portland Trailblazers, and Utah Jazz. So starting out with the Denver Nuggets.
This one should be
Um
easy.
yeah, I think so. So what we're gonna do is we are going to slow reveal our notes into a shared Google Doc, and then we will both break down why we picked the specific player.
So for the Nuggets, it's easy. It's Nikola Jokic. That's the goat for the Nuggets. What were some other names you were thinking? For sure, Carmelo, right? Carmelo is up there. Anybody else?
Yeah, Melo was definitely a honorable mention. Ultimately, I think that due to their messy divorce that he had exiting the franchise, I feel like that unfortunately gave like a little bit of a knock towards him. Um, Aside from him, honestly, I didn't really think of any other players as like super big competition, to be honest. Like obviously Nuggets have had like other good players in their franchise history, but I felt like it was just too easy that it was really Joker, and then I thought of Melo as like an honorable mention. I just didn't really think of any other players honestly as like arguable candidates, to be honest. So it was mostly just those two for
Yeah,
me.
I guess someone that at least deserves a shout, but was definitely not gonna be the Nuggets go is Alex English. He scored the most points for the Denver Nuggets with 21,645 points. I'm sure Nikola will eventually surpass that, but so far he's the leader. So shout out to him.
Yes, sir. Shout out to him. Definitely a one of the OG legends for the Nuggets,
Uh huh.
for sure.
So what are some
Um,
reasons why you chose Nikola Jokic? Like, let's give off the obvious reasons.
yeah, so first off, definitely longevity. He has already been with the Nuggets for 11 years now, I believe, because he was drafted in 2014, and that does outbeat Melo's stint with the Nuggets because I believe Melo played for the Nuggets for not even 8 full years. I think it was more like 7.5 seasons because I know he was drafted in 2003 and then he was traded at the deadline in 2011. Versus Joker, obviously, as mentioned, already 11 years now. So Joker has Melo beat there. And then, of course, on top of that, we already know like Joker, he could get the stats, he could get a lot of crazy accomplishments. He is third all time in triple doubles with 164 currently and only 17 back behind Oscar Robertson, which I feel like it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when he will end up passing him for number two. So then the only question would be if he could ever end up catching Russ. And I feel like that also depends like how much longer Russ plays and all that. But I would say never. It's not impossible. But yeah, honestly. Oh, and then of course, most important thing is that Joker ended up helping the Nuggets get their first championship in franchise history.
I was afraid
So
you were gonna forget to say that.
that was yeah, that was gonna be like the very important part about all of this. So yeah, honestly, I feel like that was just the icing on the cake, to be honest. The first championship, not only for him, but for the franchise. So yeah, I think it was just a no-brainer that Nikola Jokic is clearly the franchise GOAT for the Denver Nuggets. So, Memo, is there anything you would like to add on to what I said or counter or anything?
Definitely not counter since we have the same player, but like everything you said makes sense. How he helped win this franchise their first uh, chip, how he leads for sure the Nuggets franchise in triple doubles, third all time in NBA history. For the Nuggets franchise, he does lead in rebounds and assists overall, so that's pretty impressive. He's a three-time MVP, seven-time All Star, seven-time All NBA, all with the same team, and hopefully he sticks with them moving forward. Even though us Lakers fans are delirious sometimes, and would love to see some way somehow he gets over there to the LA. But yeah, this was a easy pick. Denver, the Denver Nuggets goat is for sure Nikola Jokic. So that's that. Now let's move on to the Thunder, the most recent champs. This one, I'm very curious on your answer. I do think
Yeah,
we'll have the same answer, but part of me feels like you might have a different answer. We'll
I think
see.
that I think that for this one, like different people might judge differently based on like different criterion. I feel like for me, like it's gotta be this specific guy due to reasons, which we
Okay.
will talk about very soon.
Okay.
But
I.
without further ado, let's get
Ooh.
to it.
Okay. I'll
All
say,
right.
I
So,
love your answer. I. Okay. You tell us your answer, and then I'll give out my answer.
gotcha. So we did end up having different answers for this one, obviously based on I guess Mammals reaction. So for my goat for the Thunder, I ended up going with Russell Westbrook. Um, and I must say that, I mean, do you want me to go over my reasons first, or do you want me to let you say who you picked first?
Let me just quickly say that I ended up choosing Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but you can make your argument first while I rebuttal after.
Yeah. So here's the reason why I ended up still picking Russ, even though Shea is the guy who ended up winning the franchise their first championship in OKC. Obviously, like they're gonna count the Seattle championship, but I hardly count it as a part of OKC because they weren't even in the same city. But obviously Shea just recently helped the Thunder win their first championship. But the reason why I stuck with Russ as the franchise GOAT for OKC is because first off, obviously he ended up playing for the Thunder at least so far. There's possible Shea might end up playing for OKC the rest of his career and ends up outbeating Russ for his stint. But at least so far, Russ played for OKC 11 years, and Shea is currently only on, I believe he's about to be his seventh season with OKC because he was traded to OKC 2019 in the Paul George trade, and then afterwards has been just doing his thing and caught to superstardom is the franchise. But yeah, as mentioned just now, Russ has pretty much so far played for the franchise just longer, honestly. I think that he's done a little bit more for the franchise in the sense of like I guess the distribution factor. in his career, he is leading NBA history 203 triple doubles. Out of the 203 triple doubles, 138 of them was with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that was obviously by far the most impressive season he had was 2017, the first year he had to play alone when KD ended up doing one of the weakest moves in NBA history. Um, which I think that's one of the reasons why Kevin Durant got disqualified from this conversation because obviously his career just wasn't the longest with OKC and the way it ended wasn't a pretty one. Now, if you're talking pure talent, then KD might be the guy, but I feel like ultimately it had to be between two guys at the end, and the main reason why I picked Russ was just due to tenure, time length, and I would say definitely the stats recorded as well, and more so like what he was able to accomplish for the city of Oklahoma City. Um, Shea obviously did bring the biggest thing for the franchise, being the NBA championship. But I feel like Russ being for played for them, the moment almost like double the time length of Shea, but like Shea is getting up there in years now. I would say like because of the time length, I still put Russ as OKC's franchise GOAT. However, if Shea wins like one more championship, I might change my mind as soon as next year, to be honest. At this current time, I think I still got to go with Russ as the franchise GOAT for OKC in a, I would say, pretty close debate for sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, I will let Memo have at it now.
Yeah, for me, it's as simple as the chip, I guess. Like, I understand Westbrook was there longer, and, like, don't get me wrong, I am a huge Russell Westbrook fan. I talk about this all the time. I love the guy, and the fact that he was able to carry, like, a mid ass team to the playoffs after Kevin Durant left them. I have so much respect for that. I have so much respect for Westbrook. I love what he has done in his career. He won an MVP in OKC. He was like the first player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple double, and then decided to do that multiple times in his career, which is crazy. The man is Mr. Triple Double, and I'm sure if you ask like a bunch of people from Oklahoma who is the best Thunder, I feel like a good chunk of them would say Westbrook just because of what he was able to do with that city, especially with Kevin Durant leaving. But I also believe a lot of people will go with Shea because he did what Westbrook, Durant, Harden were not able to do during their time in OKC was win the chip. They were able to go to the finals at a very young age, but Shea did the one thing that they couldn't do, which is win a chip, and he did it in like a very impressive fashion because he not only won the NBA Finals, but he won Finals MVP. He won Western Conference Finals MVP. He won regular season MVP. He is the scoring champ. He had numbers similar to MJ this season. And although like I was rooting for Jokic this whole time for MVP and all that, I would even say that I'm not a Shea hater, but I'm not like a Shea fan either. Like just watching him play is like all right to me. I prefer Russell Westbrook like 1,000 times over, but it does have to be Shea because he was able to do the one thing that uh, Durant and Westbrook couldn't do. To me, it was a three-man race. I did consider Kevin Durant a bit because he was the leader of the Thunder when he was there. But to me, I guess if I were to rank the three, it would be Shea, Westbrook, and Durant because Westbrook did stay for a bit and was able to do a lot with Durant leaving. So yeah, although I would rather say Westbrook is the GOAT for OKC, I think it's Shea.
All right. I would say many of the things you said were definitely fair points in the sense like obviously you mentioned you at least did consider like Russ and obviously KD as well a little bit. But the fact that because Shea was the one that was able to win the ultimate prize, that was a reason why you picked him. And I feel like what you said about like some fans would probably also say Shea due to the championship, also understandable. So at the end of the day, like as I mentioned, like I feel like it's a pretty close debate for sure. And like if Shea wins at least even like one more championship, then the answer just might be a no-brainer at that point. But yeah, I think this one was definitely one of the more what should we call it? I guess one of the more debatable ones in the sense like a lot of people will be back and forth. Like there's not really a clear-cut right answer that you could really argue one way or another and have a good point either way, I think. So yeah, I think that this is definitely one of them that's more up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. Did you consider Gary Payton at all? Any of the Supersonics?
Honestly, I didn't really I didn't really put Seattle into the consideration simply due to the fact that I don't really consider them as like the same. I mean, they are the same franchise historically, technically, but like, let's say NBA expands in like 2 to 3 seasons, for example. Then it's like Seattle, if they get a new team, they're gonna get back Seattle's history. And then that just further validates like this team is not the same as that team. So honestly, like I didn't really think of Seattle's history when talking about OKC's history. Now, let's say we were to add Seattle as into this series, and without a doubt, it would be Gary Payton for sure as their franchise go.
I agree.
Now, obviously, we're not gonna get too far off guard there because we're talking current franchises. But yeah, it would be a no-brainer if we were talking about Seattle. It would be Gary Payton.
Yeah. We have been yapping, so let's keep the pace going with the Timberwolves. I feel like this one's a little obvious as well, but I don't know.
I
Maybe
think so.
maybe you have a different name that I wasn't thinking of. We'll see. So we're gonna share our answers. And yeah, looks like we got the same person. We got Kevin Garnett as our Timberwolves GOAT. So would you like to go over why you believe he is the GOAT for the Wolves?
For sure. So, I think that as far as Kevin Garnett goes, obviously he was well. Obviously, to start with the Timberwolves, we all know that their history isn't really the greatest. We mentioned earlier, I think it was just between us two, like off air, but we did mention about the fact that Timberwolves either they either don't make the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round, or they will make it to the conference finals. But they've never lost in the second round, nor have they made it to the NBA finals. So this franchise is definitely like very interesting in the sense like it could be the low, not even the highest of highs. I would say like pretty high. They could either be pretty high or they could be the lowest of lows. But Kevin Garnett just brought the Timberwolves a sign of like life and excitement for a good while. And he tried his best to carry that team. Obviously, he didn't necessarily get the help that he probably deserved, but like his tenure in itself, I think just puts him over the top. Played for the Timberwolves for 13 seasons. Um, well, first he played for 12 seasons, 1995 to 2007. Obviously, he ended up getting traded to the Celtics, won a championship there in 2008, and he was on the Nets for 2 seasons. And then to finish his career, he ended up having that 1 season, 1.5 season back in Minnesota. So that was cool. He was able to finish his career where he started. And I feel like it's just that Kevin Garnett was he when you talk about the Timberwolves history or when you see their throwback black jerseys with the Christmas tree designs on the side, you think of Kevin Garnett because he's the ones that made he's the one that made that jersey iconic. And he was also the first guy that took the Timberwolves to the conference finals. This was back in 2004, I believe, when they made it there, but unfortunately ran into the Lakers and lost to the Lakers in the conference finals. But yeah, I feel like it was just a no-brainer. Kevin Garnett is the clear-cut franchise GOAT for the Timberwolves. Now, if we're talking about like honorable mentions, maybe Kevin Love could have been an argument,
I was thinking about
but
him too.
ultimately, yeah, but ultimately, like if you're comparing the two Kevins, Kevin Love just didn't play for the franchise as long as Garnett did. So definitely that put Garnett over the top for sure.
Yeah, definitely Garnett is their GOAT. Maybe Anthony Edwards will someday be their GOAT. I guess Cat deserves at least a shout out. He's not the GOAT, but like he tried his best over there, and he seemed to love Minnesota. So it kind of sucked that he had to get traded, but it is what it is. But yeah, for sure, Kevin Garnett is the Minnesota Timberwolves GOAT. He is their only MVP in their history. He was a multiple time All Star as a Timberwolf, multiple time All NBA. He won All Star MVP during his time as a Timberwolf. And just overall, a legendary career. He's a Hall of Famer, NBA 75th anniversary team. He won a chip not with Minnesota, but he did win a chip in his career. Very impressive resume for this guy. And what's interesting, he leads the Timberwolves in points, rebounds, and assists, all three in their franchise history, which is kind of surprising. Like especially the assist part. Like Ricky Rubio couldn't beat it at one point, I guess. That's interesting, but yeah, Kevin Garnett is for sure there. You go. Shout out Kevin Love. He was one of my favorite players growing up. I remember having debates with myself who's the best power forward in the league. Is it Anthony Davis or Kevin Love? That was the debate I was having. So shout out Kevin Love. Shout out Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe Anthony Edwards will be the Timberwolves scope, but right now it's for sure Kevin Garnett. So should we move on to the next team?
Yeah, I think we are good to move on to the next team, and that would be the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, I feel like this one is also on the easier side, but let's see if you surprise me. Oh, okay. This
Okay.
is interesting. Okay, I thought this was gonna be easy, but we got two different names. What's your name?
Yeah, I ended up picking Clyde Drexler, old school, and
And
you ended up picking.
Damian Lillard. So I went new school on this one. So argue for the old
All right.
school.
Yeah, I will go ahead and do that. So, I feel like this one was definitely a very it was definitely a bit of a back and forth debate for me. I ultimately picked I picked Clyde Drexler due to the fact that he played for the franchise for he played for 12 years for Portland, and I think that Dame was pretty close. He ended up playing for 11 years, I believe. I think that the reason why I ultimately ended up picking Clyde Drexler was because of I guess the fact that he was able to make these accomplishments earlier in the franchise's existence, shall we say. And I'm not entirely sure about like the Blazers playoff success during his time there. I feel like they had like a fair share of success. Um Now I will say definitely Dame has the argument for being better in the sense that he did end up surpassing Drexler's numbers in terms of the all-time scoring leader for Portland in 2022, so definitely an argument there for sure. I think that ultimately the Trailblazers, not his fault, obviously. They just didn't really have a lot of playoff success during Dame's time, and a lot of it was he didn't really get the help that he deserved, to be honest. I think that when Clyde was there, they did end up like win a little bit more in the playoffs, but obviously I don't think they won they did not win a championship during that era either, I don't think. Or did they? I don't think so. No, they didn't. Yeah, because he won his championship with the Rockets.
Yeah, yeah, that's his
So,
only chip.
yeah. But yeah, ultimately this was for sure a little bit of a back and forth for me. I think I ended up picking Clyde more so due to the fact that he was the OG in Portland, and they had a little bit more winning in the playoffs, even though still didn't get super far. But yeah, this was definitely one of my on the edge picks for sure.
Okay, did Drexler make the finals with the Blazers? Do you know that on top of your head? Because I'm trying to remember.
I feel
I'm
like
pretty sure Damian Lillard went to a Western Conference Finals once with the Blazers.
oh he did, yeah. I think it was, yeah, 1989 to 1990 he led them to the finals,
Okay,
but they ended up losing against the Pistons 4-1.
okay.
I thought that they, they might have went up against the Bulls too, I think.
I think
And obviously didn't win if they did, but
I just remember Clyde Drexler and Michael Jordan going at it a few times, but I don't know if that was the finals or just the regular season. I don't remember. Um, okay, I'll argue
I
for.
think, oh, okay. I actually wasn't wrong. So they did end up going to the finals again in 1992, and that was when they lost against the Bulls 4-2. So they
Gotcha.
made a few finals appearances with Clyde Drexler, which I guess was also probably another reason why I ended up picking him here. But unfortunately, they did fall short both times.
Okay, that
But
is a good
yeah,
argument though. Like he was able to take Portland to the finals. Um, Even though I did use like the finals as my reasoning for Shea earlier, and I know Dame didn't win a ring for Portland, didn't even go to the finals with Portland. Um, and I guess with my same argument, I should have argued Bill Walton as the GOAT since he won a ring with Portland. I am still going with Dame because mostly for the counting stats, you know, he does lead this franchise in points. He was a multiple time uh, All Star as a Blazer, multiple time All NBA. He, I guess the uh, I guess I don't have a lot to argue with. Um, he did have some cool moments in the playoffs though, like multiple game winners. I think like um, what's the word? Not I, for a lack of better word, like season ending game winners where I think he hit a game winner against OKC, uh, like in front of Paul George's face. That was pretty iconic. I think he did the same thing against the Rockets too. I forgot. But he had some big shots, some very clutch moments. There's a reason why he's called Dame Time, you know. And I feel like if he'd ask Portland fans, they would argue for Dame. I think a lot of them would say that he is the Portland GOAT. I think if he stayed in Portland, he for sure would have been the GOAT. But I guess there's more of an argument now since he uh, left to go to Milwaukee, or I guess traded, right? Um, so I guess I'm still gonna say Dame is the GOAT, but there's an argument for Clyde Drexler. I guess there's an argument for Bill Walton. Maybe if you're feeling a little spicy, maybe you argue for LaMarcus Aldridge, Brandon Roy, but um, I like the two picks that we had at least. I don't think your pick is too crazy. It's not like you uh, chose Yusuf Nurkic, you know. Like, it makes sense. Like, you have a good argument. Probably better than me, honestly, now thinking about it, because Dame never went to the finals. He's never won MVP. He's never really. He hasn't really done much, honestly, other than being all NBA player, all star, and score a lot. But yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We could honestly move on to the Jazz. We could keep this one brief because I don't want to talk about my choice for too long. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's see if we have the same player in mind. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it. We both have Karl Malone. There's an argument for John Stockton, of course, the number two guy, the Robin, who is also kind of problematic, but not as problematic as Karl Malone. I'll give my quick spiel. He just scored a lot of points for the Jazz. They were able to go to the finals, uh, right? Like, for sure, at
They
least
did.
once, right?
I think I think they made it to the finals twice, and
Twice.
obviously lost against the Bulls both times.
Okay.
And there was that one infamous story you might or might not remember if you watched The Last Dance in Utah when that one pizza spot tried to food poison Jordan or something. And then
Whoa.
I think that's what led to the flu game, and
Whoa.
tactic did not work. He still ended up beating the Jazz.
Yeah, beating that
So,
pedo. uh,
yep.
I actually didn't watch The Last
But
Dance, so that's news to me.
yeah, it was definitely interesting stuff from that documentary for sure. But yeah, I wanted to pick John Stockton really bad. I feel like the numbers just couldn't really back it, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah, it's crazy
to start,
how
like,
Karl Malone is third in all time points in NBA history. That alone is insane. And that alone
yeah,
kind of makes him like the Jazz GOAT, since he did that for most of his career. He did make a quick stint in LA, but for the most part, he did all that damage as a Jazz player.
yeah, and that's unarguable. Like, I feel like if you compare the two in itself, John Stockton was a 10-time NBA All-Star, but then Karl Malone was a 14-time NBA All-Star. And then Karl Malone won two MVPs, both with the Jazz. John Stockton, he did not win no MVPs, but he was really great, obviously. Um, as far as tenure goes, John Stockton did only beat Karl Malone by one extra year in Utah. He Stockton played 19 years with the Jazz, and Malone played 18 years with the Jazz. So, um, practically the same there. But yeah, like third all time leading scorer. I was shocked when I saw that, like, not necessarily like 2,000 points away from like practically doubling on Stockton, because Karl Malone had 36,928 career points, and Stockton had 19,711, which is still really good, but like I didn't expect it to be that big of a difference, honestly. So yeah, I feel like it's a no-brainer. It has to be Karl Malone for the Utah Jazz all-time GOAT.
Yeah, not a fun answer. I would have rather argued for Rudy Gobert than Karl Malone, but I
Yeah.
had to be
I mean, like,
somewhat objective.
yeah, if it was fan favorite wise, maybe I'll go with someone totally different. Maybe Darren Williams.
Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer is a nice shout. Donovan Mitchell.
Man, honestly, those early 2000, like late 2000s Utah Jazz teams are fun. Carlos Boozer, Darren Williams, Andre Karolinko.
Good shouts.
Man,
Good shouts.
and their jerseys were so much better back then.
I agree.
And the court. I like that a lot better than just the plain old Jazz Note logo.
Oh yeah, the Jazz note sucks. Um.
Yeah, it's boring.
Okay, let's move
But
on
yeah,
to the next team, which is the Warriors, and this one's gonna be super easy, super quick. It's
so
obviously
easy.
Draymond Green. No, I'm kidding. Steph Curry. Steph Curry
Ah,
is
very
obviously
funny, right?
the Warriors go. I mean, this could be quick too, but you want to give your spiel? You want to talk about why Curry's the goat?
Yeah, honestly, like I feel like there's not a whole lot we really need to say because the it's just a lot of stuff. When you hear Steph's name, it speaks for itself. I mean, obviously, like before Steph arrived in Golden State, the Warriors had like been irrelevant for a long time. They've had flashes of being an exciting team with, for example, We Believe Team 2007 when they were the eighth seed and they beat the Mavs for first seed. That was fun. Baron Davis, Jason Richardson, Jamal Crawford, you name it. But aside from that, like a few decent years here and there, the Warriors were just, for the most part, bottom feeders for a good 20, 30 years. And once they drafted a babyface assassin named Stephen Curry, this franchise just changed for the better. And the first few seasons, obviously, they were still not very good. Then, obviously, it built through the draft. They got some pieces. Add along Steph, they were able to get Clay, Draymond Green, and Harrison Barnes, those guys. And then they were able to win. First year, they were winning championship, organically built. And then obviously came the super team years. But like even through all those like superstar players, like even when I got Kevin Durant, it was just so clear like Steph was still clearly the face of the franchise. And so now, all time best 3-point shooter of all time, arguably the best point guard of all time. A little bit of a debate there. Lakers bias, I still want to say Magic, but it is very neck and neck for sure. So that being said, obviously, four-time NBA champion. Speaks for itself. I think that it's just a no-brainer. Steph Curry is the clear-cut all-time GOAT for the Warriors. And one of the greatest in NBA history in general.
I 100% agree. I mean, you said it well by saying they were irrelevant. They were a poverty franchise before he came through, and once he started, draining those threes and becoming an all-star, this franchise changed for the better. They had a nice little dynasty with some help from Kevin Durant, who deserves a shout, I guess. But they won 4 chips with Steph. Steph was a one-time Finals MVP. Should have been 2. Curse you, Andre Iguodala. He was a 2-time scoring champ, 1-time steals champ, 11-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA. He's part of the NBA 75th anniversary team, leader in total 3-pointers made. Like, this guy has had a crazy career. He went toe to toe with prime LeBron James, and got the better of those battles for the most part, even though Durant helped him a lot with that. I guess the only main blemish is the 3-1 choking that 3-1 lead in the finals against LeBron in 2016 after leading the Warriors to the best record in NBA history, which is a plus for sure. Like that's definitely something impressive that happened in his resume. But the only thing that sucked that you could say is a blemish in Steph's resume is that choke job in the 2016 NBA Finals, which was incredible. I remember us talking about it in high school. It was crazy.
Do you remember, honestly? Crazy. That was 9 years ago. Damn.
Oh, dude, I'm feeling old.
Oh my gosh. I know. Time flies.
Time flies. There's kids that didn't get to watch that series. That sucks for them.
Bro, I know.
Okay,
Like, out of those 4 years of Warriors Cavs, clearly undebatable that was the best year.
yeah, yeah, and I think I forgot who I was rooting for. Actually, I think I was rooting for the Warriors, but I don't
I
remember.
I think I was still rooting for the Warriors that year, honestly.
I just
It
remember
was
being
most
like very impressed with LeBron after though.
Oh yeah, definitely. No brainer there for sure.
All right. Next franchise is the Clippers. This is for sure not a no-brainer in my opinion. I feel like there's a lot of
Yeah.
answers you could go with. I don't know if my answer is like the correct one or not. I don't know what Clippers fans would say, but we'll see. We'll see, I guess. We'll reveal it right now. Oh, okay.
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 So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I don't necessarily think there is a right answer because simply put, Clippers just haven't really won anything
They've
to
been
have a clear
ass.
cut.
They've been ass.
Yep,
Poverty
exactly.
franchise.
Already franchised. But yeah, I ended up picking Blake Griffin. Um, I guess I'll let you say your winner, your pick first before I go deep dive.
His teammate Chris Paul.
All right. So I definitely thought about putting Chris Paul here, but ultimately I picked Blake Griffin because he played for the Clippers a few more years than Chris Paul did, and he was drafted by the Clippers. So that's why I picked Blake Griffin. On top of that, he did win the Rookie of the Year with the franchise. Um, was injured quite a bit for a few years there, but then again, so was Chris Paul. He was injured a lot for the Clippers also. So then it's like, if you were to mention any other guys, similar problems to be honest. Like Kawhi Leonard, his peak when he's healthy, really good, but like missed so many games with the Clippers. Same for Paul George, missed a lot of games for the Clippers. And quite honestly, I think that Paul George's stint with the Clippers was relatively disappointing. Like he's had his highs, but I feel like there were just too many lows there too. And then yeah, ultimately I feel like those two guys, Kawhi and Paul George, were disqualified just due to the fact that they didn't play enough games for the team. Like obviously Kawhi is still on the team and he might end his career with the Clippers, but just hasn't really gotten far enough, I don't think. I mean, like when they finally made it past the second round, they did it after Kawhi was no longer available in the playoffs, which is crazy in itself. Now, these two guys, Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, they never even sniffed the conference finals with the Clippers. So I guess technically that argument doesn't really help their cause here. But ultimately, like those two guys did play for the Clippers. I was gonna say longer, but like Kawhi already matched Chris Paul's length, like 6 years with the Clippers,
Oh,
which it doesn't
whoa.
feel like it
It's
to be
because he barely
honest. But
played.
like, Yeah, that's just crazy to think about. Um, yeah, honestly, I just had to put Blake Griffin due to like playing for the franchise longer. Not necessarily a confident answer, but I just picked it simply due to like length of time, to be honest, and getting drafted by the franchise and winning Rookie of the Year.
Okay. So I picked Chris Paul because feel like the um what is it called? Lob something. What was that era called?
Lob City.
Lob City era. Thank you. Um, was for sure like the most exciting, most like I guess exciting. I was gonna say impressive, but they didn't really win anything. But for sure, the most exciting era of the Clippers, era that got them the most amount of fans, the era that people think of the most when they think about the LA Clippers is Lob City. So I felt like I had to choose a player during that time, even though I guess we could have gone way back and gone with like a Bob McAdoo. I think he won an MVP as a Clipper. Like what was it? Buffalo Clippers. I forgot what it was called. Um,
Buffalo Braves.
not was it Braves? I
It
forgot.
was the Braves. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think he I think he also might have played for them after they relocated to San Diego for a little bit, maybe. But it was primarily when he was in when they were in Buffalo.
Dude, that's so long ago. So yeah, I for
Yeah.
sure thought picking a player from this era is like the way to go. So you choosing Blake Griffin, I'm not mad at that at all because that's the era I was thinking. But during this time, I did think Chris Paul was the leader of the team, so that is why I ended up choosing him. He leads the franchise in assists. He is a very smart player. Like, although he's very annoying, very pesky, he is one of the best basketball minds of all time. He is a great defender as well. Good leader, I guess. So that's basically it. That's basically why I ended up choosing Chris Paul as um, the Clippers' GOAT.
Okay, fair point. Also, I would like to make a quick correction that Bob McAdoo only played for Buffalo Braves and he did not play for the Clippers, technically, once they relocated.
Got it.
So he is a OG franchise guy.
OG, OG.
Pre-print name. Yeah. So yeah. Funny enough, he then ended up playing for the Lakers. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Shout out to Elton Brand. Shout out to Chris Kamen because why not? Shout out.
Yeah. Lamar Odom,
Oh, Lamar
Corey
Autumn.
Maggette,
That's a good shout.
Aaron Davis.
Honestly, shout out to Paul George for helping this poverty franchise go to the Western Conference Finals. Uh,
Honestly. Hey, but still still obviously massive decision trading away Shea for Paul George, who didn't end up going that
Dude,
far.
Shea could have been their goat. Shea could have been
He
their
could have
goat.
been, honestly.
But
Like
he's the
it
OKC
was
goat.
it was really crazy like seeing posts about like Shea in a Clippers jersey and Tyrese Halliburton in a Kings jersey. And then those two guys ended up meeting in the finals. Like massive mistakes from those two poverty California teams.
Yeah. Sticking with California, not poverty side, luxurious, high
Glorious,
end,
luxurious.
elegant side of things. So we're gonna talk about the
Number one
LA
mansion.
Lakers, the greatest franchise of all time. Um, this one's easy in my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people have like different answers, but yeah, we have the same answer. It's Kobe. It's Kobe. It's the player we grew up watching. I know a lot of people would argue Magic Johnson, but for me, it's Kobe. I think he's the better overall player. He just stats alone is crazy, dude. He's a two-time scoring champ. He obviously scores a lot of points. 12-time All Defensive team. That's crazy impressive. 15 All NBA player. That's that's a lot. 4-time All-Star MVP, 2-time Finals MVP. He's in the 75th anniversary team. He has an MVP award. He has he's an 18-time All-Star, 5-time NBA champ, Hall of Famer. He even won an Oscar. This resume is crazy. I know Magic had an amazing run with the Lakers, and although a lot of people would dock uh, Kobe for his first 3 rings because he wasn't the main guy, even though it was pretty much a 1A, 1B scenario, I believe. Like, clearly it was Shaq's team, but it wasn't like Kobe was, uh, like, I don't know, a role player or anything. The same could be said with Magic, too. He had Kareem, he had James Worthy, one of the most underrated players of all time. James Worthy was uh, a, a number 1 pick. He was a Finals MVP. Like, Magic had a lot of help as well. Kobe was able to do it in impressive form with Pau Gasol winning those 2 chips. Those 2 chips are the reason why I'm talking to you today, because if I didn't watch the 2010 NBA Finals, I wouldn't have become a huge basketball fan. So, there's a lot I could say about Kobe, but I'll have you take the floor. Why is Kobe your Lakers GOAT?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of things you already mentioned, like all those accolades, leaders in Lakers history. Speaking of which, obviously, is 33,643 points is the most in Lakers franchise history. There is one. Another one is the most games played as a Laker, 1,346. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, ended up winning 1 MVP. Should have won more if not due to those robberies and BS NBA qualifications. Um, 5-time NBA champion, 2-time Finals MVP. Say what you want about the help from Shaq, but like their stats were like neck and neck, and there were just like even some of those years you can argue Kobe was really the upper guy in the series. Honestly, I mean like, and still blaming Shaq due to their early separation because they could have won more championships together. Honestly, if not for Shaq's ego. But at the end of the day, though, like 5 championships, 3 with Shaq, 2 with Powell. Can't really ask for too much more. I mean, obviously, it would have been nice if he either matched Jordan or had more than Jordan, but only 1 short of Jordan. That's pretty damn good. And yeah, as you mentioned, similar to me, 2009, 2010 championships was when I first got into basketball and fell in love in the game because in large part it was due to Kobe. Obviously, like seeing how great he was as a player. At the time, I think he was without the doubt the best player in the league. I think he was better than LeBron those years for sure. Um, yeah, greatest player in the league at the time. Clearly the greatest player in the Lakers franchise history, and easily one of the greatest players of all time in general. So shout out to Kobe Bean Bryant, our GOAT for the Lakers, and in our hearts, our NBA GOAT. RIP to the legend.
R.I.P. For sure, LA GOAT. Of course, gotta shout out Magic, gotta shout out Kareem, even though he wasn't there his entire career. Gotta shout out Shaq, Wilt, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West. There's a lot of legends from the Lakers franchise, but to me, it's easily Kobe Bryant. It's easy. So that
No
is
brainer.
our answer for the Lakers. Now we'll go with the Suns. I'm curious about which direction you're gonna go with for this one. I don't know if this one's an obvious answer, but My answer, I guess. We'll see. Okay, we
I
got the
think
same
this one
guy.
is okay, not bad. I will say, like, I would not say it's a 100% obvious answer, but there's definitely one guy that makes you lean more towards one way or another, and that
Yeah,
would be Steve Nash.
for
So,
for sure.
I guess I can start the reason why I picked him. So, the reason why I picked Steve Nash was obviously homegrown boy. He was drafted by the Phoenix Suns in 1996. Now, obviously, to start his career, he wasn't in Phoenix for too long. He only played 2 seasons before he was ultimately um, shipped off to the Mavericks. And obviously, legendary time in Dallas. Him and Dirk, they were one hell of a duo. And then came his return back to Phoenix. And that's when he really emerged his GOAT stature in Phoenix. Obviously, the Suns had some really nice teams in the early to mid 2000s to the early 2010s. Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion, Joe Johnson. They even had that 1 year, or no, not 1 year. I think 2 seasons he had with Shaq. Obviously, those teams did not necessarily get like the furthest, but they were fun while it lasted for sure. And then, yeah, Steve Nash. I think that the fact that he did a lot for the city of Phoenix, and he was very flashy and really fun to watch. Really, that was one of the reasons why I put him as a go here. Now, you could argue Charles Barkley as one of the clear cut main competitors, old school. Um, he actually took the, if I'm not mistaken, the Suns made one finals with Barkley, right? I'm pretty sure when they lost against the Bulls, I think.
I'm gonna have to double check that, but you could keep talking. I'll
Yeah,
double check.
I think I would have to double check on that one too. I do know that they did make a finals and lost against the Bulls. I'm pretty sure it was when they had Barkley on the team. But so I guess that could be one of the arguments to if someone were to pick Barkley. But ultimately, I just picked Steve Nash because I feel like he I feel like when you think about Phoenix Suns, I immediately think of Steve Nash. That was the reason why I picked him, I think.
Yeah, Barkley did go to the finals as a Sun, and he did win an MVP as a Sun as well. But I agree with you. I would go with Steve Nash. He won two MVPs as a Sun, and just
Exactly.
the playing style was game changing. You know, fast pace. Uh, he didn't have to score the ball a lot in order for the team to win. He just had to make good, smart plays in transition or in the half court, and it was kind of game changing, and we kind of see that now or in the past. Like I know when the Kings were good, they were kind of that way. For sure, the Pacers, like this year's Pacers, the finals bound Pacers, they played very similar to the Suns, and who knows if they would be playing like this if it wasn't for Steve Nash and his contributions with the Suns. But yeah, two-time MVP, multiple-time All-Star. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I guess for sure Charles Barkley deserves a shout out. Maybe Chris Paul and not Steve Nash. Devin Booker deserves a shout out for taking the Suns to the finals again, somewhat recently, but losing to the Bucks. But yeah, for me, it's for sure Steve Nash. He was an assist champ, multiple time All NBA. He made it to the Hall of Fame. Steve Nash is the answer, but shout out to the other players. And yeah, I just mentioned this team, the Kings. Let's talk about the Kings next. Um, I forgot. Okay, never mind. I now remember who I chose. This is a poverty franchise, so
Yeah.
not nothing too crazy, but we have the same name. We've got the same
Same name,
person,
yeah.
Oscar
And we had to
Robertson.
go all the way back for Sacramento Kings franchise
Way
go.
back.
Yeah. And usually when that's the case, I feel like usually when you have to go way all the way back, actually, let me not. I don't know what I'm gonna say to be honest. I was just gonna say like here, the fact that we have to go all the way back just proves that they haven't really had like that many great players in recent memory. I mean, like they've had good players, but like not like game changing guys. But this
Exactly.
guy that we picked was one of them, Oscar Robertson. And obviously earlier we were talking about like all time triple double leaders. Um Russell Westbrook, Nikola Jokic. Oscar Robertson had the record for a long time, as we knew, and until Russ came along. So that in itself, very impressive there. Um, Now, technically speaking, Oscar Robertson was not actually a Sacramento King. He was a Cincinnati Royal, which also says a lot. Like went all the way back, 1960 to 1970. But yeah, obviously a part of the same franchise, so it counts. Um, Now he did win an MVP with the Royals in 1964. He was a 12-time NBA All-Star and he was a 3-time NBA All-Star MVP, all with the Royals, and he was a Rookie of the Year with the Royals as well. He did get his number 14 retired by the Kings, so that in itself, obviously, a great accomplishment there. And he did make all three, or I think so. He did make three anniversary teams: 35th, 50th, and 75th. So that in itself, really great accomplishment for sure.
He's
Um,
so old. He was in the 35th anniversary team. I didn't even know that existed.
Me neither. Which makes me wonder if they did any before that. I mean, maybe I don't know, but oh, I guess 25th, but like that was a long time ago. Um, but yeah, he ended up winning one championship, but that was after he was no longer with the Royals. He won it with the Bucks. But yeah, nonetheless, it's all to say that Oscar Robertson was a legend for NBA basketball history and without a doubt the clear-cut franchise GOAT for the Sacramento Kings franchise.
Yeah, it's clear as day. I mean, there has been some good Kings players over the years, like Chris Webber, DeMarcus Cousins, De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, but it's clearly Oscar Robertson, the original Mister Triple Double. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason. Multiple time All Star with the Kings. Uh, Multiple times assist leader as well. Like, yeah, it was clearly Oscar Robertson. I think you made a good argument for him. So we can move on to the Mavs. This one's super easy as well. It could have been a
Yeah,
different player, but they
no
just
brainer,
traded him for some reason.
man.
Those
Yeah, I know.
dumbasses. Uh,
Dumbest, dumbest move of all time, and it's like they they try to make them look better just because they lucked out in the draft lottery getting Cooper flagged. That does not change how dumb of a move it was. Come on now. But yeah, clear cut, obvious answer is Dirk Nowitzki.
yup.
And it just speaks for himself, honestly. Like, when you think of the Dallas Mavericks, immediately Dirk and his one-legged fadeaway is the first thing you think of. And there's not really much you have to say. Draft what? Oh, okay. Obviously, technically not drafted by the Dallas Mavericks. He was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks, and then they regrettably traded him on draft night. And as they say, rest is history. 21 seasons for the Dallas Mavericks. Um, I'm pretty sure that is the longest tenured Dallas Maverick. And yeah, he ended up helping the franchise win their only NBA championship. And he was also the finals MVP that year. He won a NBA MVP in 2007. He was a 14-time NBA All-Star, 4-time All NBA first team, and then he was also elected to the 75th anniversary team. He got his jersey retired by the Mavs and several accomplishments internationally in FIBA as well. Speaks volumes for himself. He's not only the longest tenured Maverick, he was also by far the greatest Maverick. And he has a statue outside the arena. So yeah, shout out to Dirk. He was able to not only play for the franchise for a long time, he also helped them win their only championship.
And one of the greatest like championship runs of all time, beating out uh, the former
Oh yeah.
champs, the Lakers, uh, beating the Heatles when they finally formed up and made the finals. Uh, like Dirk, Dirk was amazing during that run, and just had an amazing career with the Mavs. He's the all-time points leader for this franchise, all-time rebounds leader, multiple time All-Star, as he said. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason. So yeah, for sure, one of my favorite players of all time, honestly, and is for sure the GOAT for the Mavs. You know, Luca could have been their next GOAT, but
He could have been.
Nico Harrison had something else to say. But yeah, for sure, Dirk is the leader. That one's pretty easy. I wonder if the next one is easy for you. It's the Houston Rockets. To me, this is an easy pick. I think I know your answer as well because I know your thoughts on
Yeah.
other Rockets players. But just in case, let's
It's
surprise each other. Let's see our answers. And yeah, looks like we got the same person.
no brainer.
Hakeem
Yeah.
Olajuwon is our Houston Rockets GOAT. Why is that so?
Yeah, so I think that name speaks for itself, obviously. Um Hakeem the Dream, drafted number one overall by the Houston Rockets in 1984, played 17 years for the franchise, and he won two championships, two finals MVPs in 1994, 1995, repeat. 1994, the same year they won the first championship, he was also the league MVP, 12-time NBA All-Star, 6-time All NBA first team, um, and then 2-time NBA rebounding leader, 3-time NBA blocks leader. He got his jersey retired by the Rockets. He made the anniversary teams for 50th and 75th, and he had a great collegiate career as well. So, yeah, speaks volumes. He, I think, is without a doubt, no debate, the greatest Houston Rocket of all time.
Not James Harden.
No. Like James Harden, he had a lot of great years, numbers, regular season stats, but then he would disappear in the playoffs. Um, and like made it far enough to like get to the conference finals, couldn't make a single NBA finals as a franchise. So yeah, no hardware to match Hakeem the Dream.
I wanted to rage bait you a little bit because I know your thoughts on Harden. Uh,
Yeah.
to be fair for Harden though, like there that game 7 against prime Golden State Warriors with Durant. Um, so you could say the Rockets were kind of robbed there. There were some things
Yeah,
that were called and stuff, but also the 3-point shooting wasn't so good for the Rockets. So
yeah.
it
It was
works
like
both ways.
27, 27 straight missed threes or something like that. That was
Damn.
crazy. Like, how does that happen in an elimination game and at home with your home crowd backing you? Like, it just makes no sense. Like, and I remember they had a lead that game too. They were up by like 15 or something, and then because of those misses, they ended up going down by like 10 or 15 late, and the hole was dug, and they never recovered.
Anyways, Olajuwon is definitely the GOAT. I mean, one of the greatest centers of all time, honestly. Both ways, you know. He had his signature move, the the move that I forgot its name, um, the dream shake, right?
Dream shake, yeah.
Okay, I felt stupid for a second. Okay, he is one of the greatest defenders of all time as well. 9-time All Defensive Team for him, 2-time DPOY, 3-time block champ. Um, but not only that, he won MVP. He was a 12-time All Star, 2-time Finals MVP. Was able to destroy Shaq in the finals. It turned the biggest man on the court into a small man that series. Hall of Famer, 75th anniversary champ. You named it. Like he had such a legendary career as a Rocket. It's weird that he ended his career as a Raptor. That was kind of random, but the as a Rocket, he did amazing things. He is the franchise points leader, the franchise rebounds leader. Um, yeah, one of the greatest centers of all time. He for sure had to be the Rockets' GOAT. So there we go. I'm glad we were able to agree there. I felt like that was pretty easy. Shout out to T Mac. Shout out to Yao Ming, just because I like them. But for sure weren't going to
Definitely.
be the goats. This one's going to be interesting. The next team we're going to talk about is the Grizzlies. Uh, I so this franchise isn't really, the best, but let's see if we have the same franchise go. Let's see. Okay, we do. We do. We have Marc
Yeah.
Gasol.
I will say this, like, this was one of them where I was like not necessarily the most confident when picking,
Same.
but ultimately I decided like it's gotta be Mark. And obviously like Grizzlies, they have had like some other guys during like grit and grind era. Um Zach Randolph, Mike Conley, you could even go further back, Mike Bibby maybe if you're talking Vancouver. Ultimately, I feel like it had to be Marc Gasol because he just did a lot for the franchise. I mean, like when he was in Memphis, three-time NBA All-Star. He was All NBA first team once, All NBA second team once. 2013, he was the NBA Defensive Player of the Year. He ended up getting his number 33 retired by the Grizzlies after he retired. Had a really nice international career as well, winning FIBA Euro Cup in 2007 before he ended up getting to the NBA. Um, he ended up winning his championship as a Raptor, so not with the Grizzlies, but still really well deserved there. So yeah, I feel like Marc Gasol just clear cut was the all time GOAT for the Grizzlies. Now it was obviously funny, cool little situation where he was literally traded for his brother. Um, Funny how that worked, and it ended up being like one of the rare win-wins. Honestly, like Lakers win two championships with Powell, and then the Grizzlies got their probably all-time GOAT for the franchise. So yeah, I think that this is definitely one of the harder to pick, not as crazy star power names. But ultimately, I think it had to be Arkansas.
Yeah, I agree. There were other players I was thinking. I was for sure thinking of the grit and grind era Grizzlies. So my three that I was like choosing between was Mike Conley, who is their all-time points and assist leader. Zach Randolph, the master of the bully ball, really loved his game, and Marc Gasol. And I ultimately chose Marc Gasol. I think he was the best player out of that bunch. Um, a great defensively, he won a DPOY. He averaged a good amount of points. Nothing crazy, His stats won't, uh, wow you, but he was a All Star for a reason. He was a 2-time All Star. He was in an All Defensive team. He was a solid player, even when he ended up leaving the Grizzlies. He had a good career. Ended up getting a ring with the Raptors, and he is such a loyal like Grizzlies player as well that like his ring. I don't know if you know this, but the ring that he got for winning the chip with the Raptors, he had it engraved saying "grit and grind" in there to like shout out his time with the Grizzlies. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for Marcus Gasol. Obviously, brothers with Pau Gasol, who was also a really good Grizzly, deserves a shout. But Marcus Gasol is, I don't know for sure their GOAT, but I would say he's the GOAT for Memphis. He was there for 11 years. He had a lot or a good amount of success in the playoffs with the Grizzlies. Went to the Western Conference Finals. Uh, I think it's fair to say that he is their GOAT, right?
Oh yeah, definitely agree for sure.
Okay. Who do we have next? I think we got two more teams.
I would
Pelicans are
got two more
next.
teams.
I feel like the Pelicans. We got two more. So Pelicans and Spurs. Pelicans is difficult for me, and then the Spurs is super easy.
Definitely.
So
Spurs is easy.
we'll get the hard one out of the way with the Pelicans. It was tough. This is another one where I feel like I don't know if I chose the right guy, but I'm gonna go with him anyways. Okay, so looks like we got different answers. So
Yeah.
who did you pick?
Yeah, so I ended up picking Chris Paul as the New Orleans Hornets slash Pelicans all-time GOAT. Um, and you picked?
I picked Anthony Davis. So this was for sure very difficult to
It
choose.
was challenging for sure. Honestly, like I wanted to pick 80 like really bad to be honest. And you could definitely make a really good case. I think that ultimately I ended up picking I think the reason why I picked Chris Paul instead was because he was definitely like one of the popular flashy players for the Hornets when he was drafted in the league. Obviously, him and Darren Williams being from the same draft class, they were neck and neck for like top young point guard in the league for a while. I mean, honestly, like it was so hard to pick between the two because both of them are so good. I would argue maybe Darren Williams the slight edge at the time, to be honest. Like Darren Williams was really good back then. And then unfortunately his career just didn't last as long as we would have liked at the highest level. But still a pretty career overall. So shout out Darren Williams there. Um but yeah, Chris Paul obviously his Hornets stint wasn't necessarily like the longest per se, but he still had a pretty nice run. And I think he ended up playing 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he was drafted 2005. Um, and then obviously came the trade demand. He was supposed to get traded to the Lakers. NBA vetoed it, and he got traded to the Clippers instead. But yeah, I think the reason why I put Chris Paul here was because he was one of the main illustrators of I guess giving the New Orleans franchise hope, shall we say. Um but like AD, I think you can have a very strong argument that he was better. I mean, like, AD has Chris Paul beat by like 3,000 points as a Hornet slash Pelican. Talking about all time points for the franchise, AD scored 11,059 points. Chris Paul scored 7,936 points. Um, and then if you're talking about like the number of seasons, I think AD actually played one more season in New Orleans than Chris Paul did. AD played for 7 years there, and Chris Paul played for 6 years. Not too far off, but ultimately, I think I just picked Chris Paul due to I guess one of the first guys to give them, I guess, being fun to watch, shall we say. Oh, I guess I will bring up another thing, like what Chris Paul does have for all-time leading for franchise is assists 4,228 and steals 1,010. So this was a tough one for sure, but ultimately I went with Chris Paul due to being, I guess, one of the first guys to get it done for the New Orleans franchise. But I will now let Memo take the stage on why he picked Anthony Davis.
What's funny, you kind of mentioned a couple of reasons why I ended up choosing Anthony Davis. It was definitely between him and Chris Paul, but I had Anthony Davis edging past Chris Paul because he played one more season. That ultimately led me to choosing Anthony Davis. But also, he is the franchise leader in points. I believe in rebounds as well. He had a really good stint with the Pelicans. He was 6-time All Star as a Pelican. He was close to winning MVP. He was top 5 twice in MVP voting. So that's pretty impressive. He was a multiple time All Defensive Player, a block champ. Um, he just had a really good career. Um, you could argue Chris Paul for sure because he had a good run with the or not Pelicans, the Hornets. But I chose Anthony Davis because he played for one more season. Partly because I also like him more, and partly because I already had Chris Paul as one of my goats for the Clippers. So I thought it would be weird to have two Chris Pauls, two teams with Chris Paul as their goat, which is kind of crazy, kind of sad as well. Of all players, Chris Paul is your goat. He's good, but yeah, I prefer Anthony Davis, so I ended up picking him.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not mad about it. And I I honestly like forget the fact that AD played one more year than Chris Paul did for the New Orleans franchise, shall I say, because Hornets slash Pelicans. But yeah, I honestly forget about that. Probably because like both of them are just kind of distant memory careers because they ended up going elsewhere and kind of becoming like bigger low key. But yeah, this was definitely one of my less confident ones for sure.
Same here. Same here. But let's start off with a confident note and talk about the Spurs uh, GOAT, which is pretty easy, right?
Easy as can be.
It's Tim Duncan. Let's not beat around the bush. It's Tim Duncan, 5-time NBA champion with the Spurs, spent his entire career there. I believe a 2-time MVP. I think he did that back to back.
He did,
Like
yeah.
the accolades for this guy is crazy. 15-time All Star, 15 All NBA, 15 All Defensive. I think that's the most in NBA history. Um, 3 times Finals MVP. Of course, he won 5 finals. He made it in the NBA 75th anniversary team. Hall of Famer. I'm surprised he was an All Star MVP. That's kind of surprising. Uh,
Mm.
so yeah, thoughts on Tim Duncan? Why do you believe he is the Spurs GOAT?
I think a lot of the stuff you mentioned, honestly, like 5-time NBA champion, 3-time NBA Finals MVP, 2-time MVP, league 2-time league MVP. I mean, 15-time NBA All Star. He was an NBA All Star Game co MVP in 2000. All NBA First Team 10 times, and then All NBA All Defensive Team First Team 8 times. Obviously, got robbed from winning Defensive Player of the Year a few times. One of those like
How did that happen?
clearly should. I don't know. Like it's just so crazy how he didn't even win one. Um, won the Rookie of the Year in 1998. NBA 75th anniversary selection. Number 21 retired by the Spurs. The list just goes on and on, honestly. And that's why it's just a no-brainer. Tim Duncan, clear cut Spurs GOAT.
Yeah.
And if you were to like try to come up with like any competitors for Tim Duncan, maybe maybe David Robinson.
Duncan Robinson is crazy.
Duncan, yeah, man. I like combined their names together, Tim Duncan, David Robinson,
uh,
and it ended up being a real player's name, Duncan Robinson. Bro, you know what's funny is like one time I saw someone combine, like they wrote Duncan Robinson, like Tim Duncan, David Robinson's last names together. And I thought it was really funny because there's a real player named Duncan Robinson that's just isn't that good anymore. Had his moments, but yeah. Anyways, I would say like David Robinson, um, would be like a arguable one, but it's just no debate. It's clearly Tim Duncan.
yeah, shout out to George Gervin. Shout out to Tony Parker. Shout out to Manu Ginobili, one of my favorite players of all time. Shout out Kawhi even.
Yeah,
He won a Finals MVP at least.
shout out to Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, it's clearly Tim Duncan. Like he leads the franchise in points and rebounds. He is an incredible player who went toe to toe with the Lakers and Kobe's run, and then he had his success years later going at it with LeBron. Like he had to face several goats during his tenure, and was still able to win 5 chips, and did it efficiently. He only won one. Only lost one finals. That's pretty impressive. So, yeah, Tim Duncan, the Spurs GOAT, and you know what? Power forward GOAT as well. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So,
I definitely do agree for sure.
okay, cool, cool. So I think that's it. I think that's all 15 teams in the West. We will continue this next week for the Eastern Conference. I'm glad we split this up. Originally, I was thinking all together, but you came up with the idea of splitting it up, and that ended
Yeah,
up being a good
I,
idea because it's
that would have
leaning
been
towards
like
2 hours.
yeah, that would have been way too long of an
It would
episode,
have been
especially knowing
crazy
that
long.
half the league already reached like 2 hours. So yeah, thankfully we are separating it, and I feel like that just makes it better, more organized, to be honest.
Yeah,
So that way, like viewers can easily watch the two conferences separately, as opposed to having to like manually look for the timestamp if they're only interested in one conference, for example.
exactly. So we'll talk about the Eastern Conference next week and talk about each team's GOAT there. But that will be it for this episode. It was a long one, but I hope you all enjoyed. Hoops. Would you like to say anything before we head out?
Yeah, I just want to say, per usual, thank you guys for the constant support to our channel. We greatly appreciate it. We would not be where we are today without you guys. If you guys like our content, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow us on all platforms. And obviously, off season is here, but our content not taking no stops. We, as mentioned earlier, next week we will continue the series and do the Eastern Conference franchise ghosts. And then after that, we got plenty more cool content and bangers coming. So you do not want to miss it. Make sure to continue to stay tuned.
Yeah, so we'll see you all next week. Kid, bye.